Hey everybody, it's Lynnea. Today I'm going to be creating some fun spring cards using Deco foil flock transfer sheets. So I wanted to add some flock with a stencil. So I'm going to start by spraying the back of the Garden Gate stencil from Pink and Main with some Pixie spray. And I'll temporarily tack that onto some heavy white cardstock. And then I'm going to grab my Deco foil Duo transfer gel and a stencil pal, and I'm just going to scrape this over the top, and I will repeat this process 4 times. So I have found that the best way to apply a medium over a stencil is to scoop way more than you need out. That way I don't have any gaps in coverage, and I can just use my stencil pal to smooth that out over the top. I have before tried to just use a little bit, and then I kind of get splotchy results. So if you go in with more than you need, and then you can always put the excess back into the container, I found that to be the best way. I'm going to peel this off, and you're going to be able to see that Duo transfer gel on the cardstock. You'll know it's dry when it is completely clear and shiny. And this will be slightly tacky, but I'm going to grab a bunch of colors of the Deco foil flock transfer sheets. I have sunshine yellow, purple punch, pink carnation, and blue sky. I'm just going to trim down pieces of the flock transfer sheets that are just a little bit bigger than my stenciled backgrounds. And then I'm just going to run these through my die cutting machine. The new Transfer Gel Duo doesn't require heat to transfer flock or foil. So all I did was just run it through my die cutting machine, and then I can peel it back, and you can see here this gorgeous stenciled flocked design. And I love the 4 colors. I just picked them based on what I thought that spring looks like. So I mixed the new flock colors with the old flock colors and just kind of picked out my favorites. And you can see that little bit of texture and dimension that the flock transfer sheets give. So I'm going to keep on creating my backgrounds. I have the Lawn Fawn Spring Fling 6x6 paper pad, and I chose 4 of the floral patterns. And I'm going to die cut them down with the Pink and Main Stitched Rectangle 1 die set. And I'm using the largest die, so this is going to cut out a piece of the cardstock that is exactly the size of an A2 card, and it'll have that stitch detail around it. I'm going to be trimming down the pieces of the stenciled flocked cardstocks, and I am cutting them down to just about 3 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches long. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've die cut some frames from the Pink and Main reverse scallop rectangle frame set, and I'm kind of going to be stacking these up. So I'll put the frame around the flocked piece, and then that flocked piece will go on top of the pattern paper. I wanted to have some stamped images to be the focal points, so I have the Alt New Build-A-Flower Dahlia stamp and die set. And I'm going to be stamping both flowers and all 3 leaves. The 3 leaves are all going to be in the same colors, but the flowers will be different. So I die cut, or I should rather say I trimmed a piece of cardstock to 6x6, and I'm just going to arrange all 3 of these leaves in one corner so I can stamp them, turn them, and stamp them again. And as long as everything fits, because my cardstock is 6x6, I'm trying to make sure that all my stamps are inside that 3-inch mark. If you kind of cut your cardstock into quarters, you can just turn your cardstock and stamp and fill up a whole sheet of square cardstock. So I have some dye inks, and I'm just going to start off with a grass green color here. I'll stamp them down once, and then I can turn my cardstock, ink up my stamps again, and stamp that down again. And I will repeat that 2 more times for a total of 4, and I'm going to have a full cardstock sheet of these leaves. Now this is a layering stamp set, so I lined up the second layer, and I'm just going to grab a teal colored ink, but when you stamp it on top of this green, it kind of just creates a darker grass green. So I love layering stamps with dye inks because you kind of can transform the colors into what you want them to be. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the flowers. I did cut this cardstock to be a little bit larger so I could fit both flowers and do the little turning trick. So this sheet is 6.5 by 6.5, and I lined up both those flowers. This is just the base layer. I have a really light pink ink, and I'm just going to stamp that a few times to get it a little bit darker. And then same thing as before, except this time I'm using different colors of inks because I wanted the 4 flowers to be different colors. So I stamped the first layer in all 4 colors, and then I stamped the second layer with the pink, turned it once, and I'm going to ink that up with the yellow ink and stamp that down. And then I'll turn again and keep building the blue flower, turn again, and build up the purple flower. This is really easy. This is my easiest way, I think, to stamp layering stamps, or really any stamps if you're stamping multiples. I'm just going to grab the coordinating die set, and I'm going to use the 1/2 inch purple tape just to tack these down, and then I'll run these through my die cutting machine, and I'll die cut all of them out. Okay, so now I have all of the pieces for my cards all cut out. I stamped a sentiment. I decided to stamp the same sentiment for all 4 cards, and I'm just going to work on placement. So I have a few tips for working with placement when you're doing 4 cards. I decided to have all 4 cards the same. I just switched up the color of the flock and the pattern paper. But I'm just going to kind of lay out the sentiment, the stamps, and decide where I want them to go. Now I want all 4 of these to look the same. So one tip is to take a picture and set that aside and kind of work off of that. But here is what I like to do a lot of the time. I'm going to start by just adhering one of the reverse scalloped frames onto the stenciled and flocked piece of cardstock. And I'm using iCraft Ultra Bond liquid adhesive for this. It's my favorite liquid adhesive. It's going to hold strong onto a variety of surfaces, so I know it's going to hold tight onto that flocked background. Once I have everything lined up the way I want it to be, I'm just taking a piece of the 1.5 inch purple tape, and I picked up all of the pieces of my flower together. So that's the 3 leaves and the 2 flowers that I picked up together. I want to have the leaves glued down flat onto my card and the flowers popped up, so I added some liquid adhesive just to the leaves. I let that sit for a minute to dry, and then I can just peel off the flowers. And you can see there that the leaves are already stuck down. I'm going to use some iCraft 3D foam squares at the back of my little flower cluster, and then I can just put that down right where I had originally placed it. Everything's kind of held together that way. So here are all 4 of my cards all finished. Like I said, I finished them off the same way. I just varied the colors of the backgrounds. I love the way these turned out. Perfect for spring. This one's my favorite. Purple and yellow always just makes me so happy. So I hope you can see some of that texture and dimension from the Deco foil flock transfer sheets. I love them so much. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye.